Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another episode of Rants and Raves. As you can see, I am in my work attire because we just got off work, of course. And so today we're going to be going over some relationship stuff. Now, we go over all kinds of things on this channel, primarily men's dating advice or masculinity, if you will. And it's an important thing to take note of, in my opinion, in regards to being able to put yourself on a path and on a purpose and being able to understand not only yourself but the people around you that you're interacting with. One of the things that I feel like isn't very much pressed upon in men is the ability to interact with women. Nobody's taught how to talk, nobody's taught how to act, right? I mean, to a degree, of course, your parents teach you how to be vaguely acceptable to society, but what nobody sits down and has a conversation of is how men and women should be interacting together. So, we're going to enjoy our coffee that we got in Aztec. Delicious. We're going to smoke our cigarettes. We're going to have us a little chat about how things are supposed to work. Okay? So, without further ado, let's listen to some patriarchy.
Do you think that a woman should be allowed to want a man to buy her dinner, open the door for her, and be a gentleman?
I think a man absolutely should buy dinner. If I have a girlfriend of 5 years, I'm still paying for every single dinner the entire way through. I think that often women may offer to pay half or just to be polite, but they don't expect to pay. And a man should, of course, say no, put your purse away. And I think a man should pay. My view on the whole thing is that, and maybe this is a little bit sexist, so don't hit me. But I don't believe anything in life is completely 50-50. I don't believe anything in life is completely fair. And I believe in every single good relationship, every single happy relationship, somebody has to be in the driving seat, even if it's 51%, 49%. And I often believe that should be a man. And I think that with that authority comes responsibility. What happens in relationships, the reason there's problems is because you have a man that has authority without being responsible. That's an abusive relationship. Or you have a man that has responsibility without authority. And that's, once again, an abusive relationship the other way around. If I'm in charge of the relationship and she obeys me and does as I say and listens to me to some degree, then I should be prepared to take care of her for that. And I think that's a very fair exchange. I'll pay for everything. But if I say we're going to this restaurant and she goes, I don't like that one, well, that's where we're eating. And that's what I'm paying for. So let's go.
We're going to pause it, because that's an important thing that very frequently gets overlooked, is the sexist ideal of relationships in regards to things tend to turn out one of two ways. Either you have power without authority, which is obviously abusive relationships, mentally, physically, whatever the case is. You have power, but no authority. Or you have authority without power, okay? It's very uncommon to have both at an equilibrium, and that's where it needs to be at, is as a masculine alpha male in a household or maneuvering in the dating world. It's important that you hold your frame, and that, as we've discussed many times over, women enter your frame. But you have to be prepared for that responsibility first, because there is a great amount of responsibility in regards to taking care of a woman, because that's in essence what you're doing. If we define dating as the process of elimination and finding your spouse, assuming that you're dating for the purposes of marriage and kids, if that's what you're doing, then it would stand to reason then that you take your time and your resources very seriously. So, with that being said, there's a huge amount of responsibility in taking on another human being, or in this case a woman, and paying for all of her needs, providing for all of her needs, and even furthermore if that woman has kids, okay? And in most cases you don't, right? In most cases a lot of women don't have kids, so of course you're just taking on the responsibility of one. But it's no small thing to overlook taking on entirely the responsibility of another human being, and it's also no small thing to overlook in allowing someone to take responsibility for you. That's a pretty big and heavy step.
And she should just be like, oh, okay, whatever. And that should be it. I think that's pretty normal. That's how I'd view a relationship, whereas that's my job as a man. If I had all the responsibility to provide, but I had no authority whatsoever, then I'd be far less happy. So I think in my view, it's down to the relationship between responsibility and authority. That's what I think it's down to.
See, and I do like what you just said because, I mean, you just made the example of if I pick the restaurant, you don't want to eat there, then I guess you're not eating type thing. To me, I'm like, okay, no, we're going to go to the restaurant that I want to go to. But again, at the end of the day, I like the fact that I guess you'd be what we call an alpha male. You put your foot down. And I think a lot of women, especially here in the U.S., we have this whole idea that, you know, we're equal to men, that we should be the ones that are in charge.
Well, if that's the case, I mean, if I were to meet a woman and she would say, I'm equal to a man and we're exactly the same and you have no right to decide, da-da-da, and I say, okay, then pay for dinner. But if she was like, okay, well, you're taking me out and we'll go where you want to go, then of course it's my job to pay. It's down. Responsibility and authority are linked. And this is the biggest problem we have, not just in dating, but in everything else. If you look at, I don't know, a battleship, a captain has responsibility, so he has authority. He's in charge of the ship. If the ship sinks, he goes down with it. So what he says must be obeyed. That's there's a link between responsibility and authority, which has been broken. Those two things must go together. So if I have a responsibility to provide for and take care of a woman, I'm going to do my job, but I also expect a certain degree of authority. If I say, look, why are you hanging around with all those dudes for? That guy keeps staring. I don't like it. No, come here. You're not hanging out with them anymore. And I'm paying your rent and providing a car and whatever. Then I expect to be obeyed. And if I'm not, then what am I doing all those things for? I think it's just about responsibility and authority, and it's down to the individual relationship. Every relationship's slightly different.
Well, right, and I think it comes down to respect in relationships, too. Like you said, you know, whether it's 49%, 51%, like there should be that respect in the relationship. There should be the two people that are really driving it. And yesterday, Scott was saying, you know, well, in a long-term relationship, and you mentioned dating, but okay, let's go into long-term. Are you still buying your woman everything? Are you still paying her rent? I know you mentioned as well. You know, if you're paying for those things, you expect her to listen to you, but
I think people are, I think relationships are 100% happier when a man's only goal is to provide fiscally and a female's goal is to provide a happy home. This is a very old school view, but I think women are very, very happier if they don't really have to worry about money and they just worry about having a nice homely place to come home to, and the man doesn't have to worry about any of that and he just has to worry about making money. The happiest couples I know are men who are making lots of money and women who enjoy the benefits of that money and reward their man for providing for them. Those are the happiest relationships I've ever seen, in my example. Those are literally the happiest relationships I've ever seen. So I think that's how it should be to a degree. I mean, as a man, I want to make money. That's what I want to do. I want to provide for my girlfriend. The last thing I want to do is start picking curtains and go in IKEA. I don't want to do it. And if I have a girlfriend and I've been with her for 4 years and we go out for dinner, I'm going to put my card down and I'm going to pay. But if we need new curtains and she says, I want to go IKEA, I say, well, go get curtains then. Oh, come with me. I don't want to come. You do it.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
So,
well,
you know.
And we're going to pause it.
I'm afraid someone is endeavoring to contact you telephonically.
When you look at the statistics of
Excuse me, sir, but I'm afraid someone is endeavoring.
when you look at the statistical rates of divorce in the West or in
Excuse me,
North
sir,
America
I'm afraid someone is endeavoring to contact you telephone.
versus other countries, you're going to see a drastic increase in Western divorce versus countries like South America, Mexico, the Philippines, Russia, in other parts of the world where things are much, much, much more traditional and sexist. You're going to see a huge increase in not only happiness, but also a lower in divorce rates. And why? Because those women don't bitch about a lack of freedom. They are well aware that there's, a lack of freedom, if you will. But they give up that freedom very freely and happily in order to, fulfill their husband's needs and in order to be happy themselves, okay? Freedom doesn't make women happy. Equality doesn't make women happy. Truth be told, rules and borders and guidelines make women happy, okay? I know it's completely uncommon to think of nowadays. It's a hard concept to grasp, and especially here in America where there's so much liberalism and leftism going on. But women don't enjoy freedom, and women certainly don't enjoy higher privilege, or at least privilege equal to men. That's not something that they enjoy. They say they do, but in reality, when you look at those strong, independent women who don't need no man, okay, when you look at those types versus you're much more, and we'll get into that in our next video, trust me, you'll see it. But when you compare that type of woman to the more subservient, submissive, let's call it the alpha female, the more traditional woman who is happy to appease her husband and be there for the family, generally speaking, and the statistics prove this, and in not just divorce but in numbers. Okay, the statistics prove that these women are much happier being in a home, being a thoroughbred woman, rather than having to work, having to go make the bread and then come home and take care of their husband and the kids. Okay, that's not a woman's job, and that's not something that they enjoy doing. Women enjoy being homemakers and cooking and cleaning and sucking dick. That's what they enjoy. You, as a man, have the responsibility and the duty to provide that for them. But a woman isn't going to do that for a bum, for a loser, for a fat deadbeat with no direction and no goals in life. Okay, that's the difference there. Authority and power go hand in hand with each other. You can't overlook that. There's not one higher than the other. They go hand in hand, just like he said, the captain of a ship. He has power, therefore he has authority. One is not above the other. They are equal. Just as it is in a relationship, you have the power, you have the authority, and if that's not being given or even respected, then what are you doing it for? What are you taking on the responsibility of a woman for? And I've had this discussion with many women many times, and especially single moms. You come into my home, you come under my roof, you come into my rules, okay? Well, what about equality? What are your opinions on, helping out with the chores? Absolutely not. That's your job. If I have to work my ass off for, I don't give a fuck if it's an hour a day. If I have to go work and provide for this household by means of income, by means of my physical wear and tear, if I have to go out and go do all this, then you're going to cook, you're going to clean, you're going to suck my dick, and you're going to have sex without any qualms whatsoever. Because that's the fair trade. I provide for you, you want for nothing. In return, you provide me with peace and a happy home. That's how it works. If I have to go to work, break my back, and come home and still do vacuuming and laundry and dishes, then what's the point of having you here living with me while I pay for your shit and or your kids' shit? If you're dating a single mom, right? There's absolutely no point. Where I'm paying for a roommate that I occasionally have sex with when she's in the mood. When it's not, my throat hurts, my back hurts, my hips hurt, right? Oh, but that's sexist, Ironbeard. Well, look at the numbers. The numbers prove this. The reality is that women are happy in their reality, in their submissive world, and men are happy with that responsibility. And I know for the more left-leaning women who might watch this, they're going to get triggered and have something to say about this. But I need you to bear in mind, too, for those of you who might watch this from a woman's perspective, we know as men, we walk into the world, we are raised and bred in the world in knowing that our destiny doesn't change. I have to wake up, go to work, and come home. That is till death takes me. That is my job. That's my role. That's what I do. Now, my option is to either do that for myself, single, for X amount of time, for forever, for my life, or I could do that responsibility for a family. That's it. And there are some human beings, there are some men who choose to go down the route of, I'm gonna worry about me. They're gonna black pill, okay? Fuck women, fuck dating, and I would give it's much more than MGTOW in regards to an idealism, okay? They just don't bother with it. They're done. They don't care. It's whatever to them. There are some men that choose that. Very few. There are very few men who dedicate themselves to a craft. Your higher end mathematicians, your scientists, your people who hone your craft to a point of giving up and foregoing a wife and kids for. There are a small percentage of men who forego that personal life, that family life to pursue a career. And that's a very small percentage of men, just as there are a very, 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 very small percentage of women who choose to go, you know what, I don't want kids. I'm happy having sex and having partners and doing my thing, but I don't want kids. I'll stay on birth control my whole life, and I'm going to go pursue a career. Those women are very, very, very far and few in between, but they exist, okay? Now, if that's the route you want to go in life, then that's fine, but just know you're going to suffer for it. The numbers prove it, the statistics prove it, and as a woman, there's nothing more frightening to a woman than, well, one, being a single mom, but two, being in your 40s with no kids, while all your girlfriends, while all your friends, while all your homies are enjoying kids and grandkids while you're at home with a box of wine and some cats. That terror, and the closer women get to 30, the more that reality sets in. Okay? So we are aware that our responsibility and our duty and our destiny is to go to work and make the bread and come home and break our backs. We are well aware of this. The difference is we enjoy that responsibility. When a woman is at home waiting for a man, when a woman is wanting me home, when a woman wants to suck my dick, when a woman wants to give me sex, when a woman wants to give me babies, that's more than enough incentive for me to go out in the cold and the rain and the snow and the heat to go do whatever means necessary it is to provide for her. I'm scared shitless of heights. I'll go walk tight wires, electrician shit. I'll go walk roofs. I'll go dive underwater and weld. There's no boundaries to the things a man will do to make bread. The incentive for us as men is that we get to come home to a woman who wants that for us, who wants us home, who rewards us with that. Thank you for doing what you do. That's the incentive, just like it is as women. The incentive is what? You want for nothing, right? You give me babies, you give me sex, assuming all is fair and equal. You want to give me babies, you want to have sex with me, right? You enjoy my company, you are on the same page as me as far as goals and ideals are concerned, right? So, of course, your fulfillment lies in doing that for a man, right? So it is equal across the board. It's not like it's a patriarchal thing. You get what you want and I get what I want, and through that means, through me needing you and through you needing me, we achieve our goals together as a couple, as a married couple, whatever the case is, and everything's fine. You see that in Russia, the Philippines, South America, Mexico. You see that in the numbers and the statistics. What you don't see is the opposite of that. You don't see the drastic decrease in the numbers of marriage in the last, we're 2022, so in the last 17 years. Huge decline in marriages. Huge increase in divorce rates. Why? Because women have that freedom. Women are given more freedom. Abortion, birth control, the internet, which, by the way, has fucking ruined women for the next 20 years at least, okay? Social media. There's a confinement, there's a box, a frame, if you will, that women have to live in and reside in order to be happy. It is their responsibility to understand that they belong in a box and to be happy in said box and learn how to be happy in said box, but it's also a man's responsibility to provide that box for her. Okay?
I'm glad you were able to put your input into that because that's been going on since yesterday and no one can seem to agree on the well, I guess we are agreeing on,
if you have a woman who loves you and she's loyal to you and she's a good girlfriend and you know that she's not going to cheat on you and she's going to stick by you, then of course you should be paying for everything because it's your job as a man. If you have a woman who barely listens to what you say and gives you hassle all the time, then you shouldn't be paying for anything. It's all down to the link between authority and responsibility. If I have a girlfriend who's perfect for me in every single possible way, why would I not fly her to Iceland and X, Y, Z? If I have a girlfriend who constantly gives me hassle and she thinks she's so smart, well, then she can pay for dinner. That's how I view it. It's really down to the individual relationship and responsibility and authority. If you're going to give me absolute authority, then I have absolute responsibility, and that includes fiscally. That's how I view it. So it depends on the woman and how much authority she wants to give you.
Look, that is just, that's it. If you give me absolute authority, I have absolute responsibility. This is an idea, and I can't say, at least men nowadays understand this and are aware of this, but I would say as a blanket statement, your average man, or at least your more high-value men, are well aware that there's a responsibility, just like I was saying earlier, there's a responsibility in not only taking on another human being, a woman. That's not only a responsibility that we are well aware of, that we have, but it's also a responsibility to give her kids and take care of those kids that we're well aware of, right? Most men don't go into relationships going, you know what? I'm going to knock her up. You look like you'd make a great single mom. Okay? Most men, 99% of men don't do that. Okay? There is no desire to breed with a woman to prolong your bloodline and not in some way, shape, or form, even if it's platonically, take care of said woman and or those babies, okay? That's just not in most men's idea. If I get you pregnant, I take care of, at the very least, at the bare fucking minimum, those kids by means of child support. And it wouldn't even be child support. It would be, hey, I'm going to hand you money every month to help take care of our kids. Even if we don't work out or whatever the case is. I mean, in most cases, you would hope it would work out, right? But when you give me absolute authority, I have absolute responsibility. All men are aware of this. All men are aware of this. That's huge.
You as a man, if you have a woman and she won't give you any authority as a man, then don't buy her anything.
And I think
Oh, here.
Now, tell me what you do for a living.
Oh, I love my husband.
And how did you get that awesome job?
Good answer.
Well, I became a better human being, and I became feminine and also shocking, submissive.
Yo, what's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Coffee Pod. My name is Shisha Said.
Drink the coffee, it'll make you feel better.
A married woman by the name of Allie just went viral on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter for explaining how to marry a high-value man. It was real simple. Someone just asked her, right? They were recording her and they asked her, hey, I noticed you have a nice ring on your finger. How did you get the man that you have? And the reason it went viral wasn't because they were taking notes. It was because they didn't like what she had to say. All right, guys, no more wasting time. Let's get it.
Okay, Allie, show me your ring.
Oh, here.
Now, tell me what you do for a living.
Oh, I love my husband.
And
Wow.
how did you get that awesome job?
Good answer.
Well, I became a better human being, and I became feminine and also shocking, submissive. So that was the secret.
So, what are your tips to women that want to be a housewife?
To embrace it. It's an actual job. You just can't get it in the public or private sector. Like, you need a man to hire you for it, but that's okay. Because if you think about it, you submit to your boss who makes you clean stupid shelves at your retail job, right? Like, wouldn't it be better if you were cleaning your own shelves at home? You know what I mean? And your boss wants to sleep with you in a good way.
Wow.
In a good way.
And where do you meet these men?
Well, I think women should work for the men that they want to pursue. I know that sounds crazy, but it's really easy. So if you think about it, like, you want a lawyer, right? So then you should be a paralegal, or if you want a dentist, then you should be a dental hygienist. But these are considered, I guess, high value status professions. But I think that's a really good model that not enough women utilize, because women will bully the woman who is the secretary that marries the doctor, okay? But who has the last laugh? Like, her in her McMansion with her husband who's hot and the babies. Like, that's who has the last laugh. So.
Now, you guys know that pissed all these modern women off.
This coffee smells like shit.
I know it did. I know it did, because the comments in response to what she had to say were crazy, right? But instead of me reading them, I'm going to let Allie respond to these comments because she had time. Guys, Allie is also a YouTuber. You can go check her out at The Real Femme Sapien. I'll have it pinned at the bottom top comment. Go check her out and follow her on YouTube. Also, Just Pearly Things is also featured in this video. I have her pinned at the top of the comments too. She was a feature in the channel in the past. Let's get to it.
Allie, how do you feel about the women that are saying this is heartbreakingly sad?
I mean, I don't know. I get my back blown out regularly. I am fully paid for survival.
She said I get my back blown out regularly. She is happier than a fag in a dick tree. Being a stay-at-home mom, getting her dickin' in. How many women are happy getting their back blown out staying at home nowadays? So few. I gotta applaud that. That's, wow. That level of honesty is just fantastic.
I have my own autonomy. I also do my own work. So, like, I just don't see what's wrong
We
with
like
my
this
situation,
coffee.
But they can ask themselves whether they're single if they want.
We like this coffee.
So, Allie, another comment is being feminine and submissive women shouldn't have to change for men to like them. This is ridiculous.
I mean, that's the same type of woman that's going to say that a man should change everything about himself to be a viable partner. So they're just
Come on,
they're just
preach.
hypocrites. So
Preach, Allie. Let's
Allie,
go.
so they're saying that you should be worried from being fired from being a housewife one day and having a gap in employment. I would love to be a stay-at-home mom, but I'm too scared to trust men that much.
well, yeah, if you want to work for the rest of your natural born life, you can continue to be afraid of depending on men, right? And again, like, I do my own work as well, so don't understand these women.
Allie, this girl says that she prays you find yourself and become confident in yourself rather than needing to be submissive. Sad.
Tell her that I like to find myself on top of my man.
Yo, these answers
so,
are
Allie,
awesome.
the men want to know, where can they find a woman like you?
Oh, I mean, I'm a statistical anomaly, but for the most part, you can find good, wholesome women away from the cities and in the country, especially if they come from a two-parent household.
In the country.
Stop gaming. In 2022, it doesn't make any sense to game without
gosh,
getting
shut the
something
fuck
back.
up.
Is there like places they can look?
Yeah, the entire Midwest. All of that. All of that.
So, do you think like churches, what specific places can they go to meet women?
Church is a complicated thing because it's produced a lot of beta-tized males, but I would say that there are feminine women in church. You just have to be careful if they're not delusional.
Okay.
Great responses.
Allie, what do you say to the comments that say this set women back 50 years?
I don't think so, because women 50 years ago were a lot thinner.
Oh,
No, I think they're wrong.
That's
women 50
facts.
years ago were
Allie,
a
what
lot
do you say
thinner.
to the women that say this is so sad? So sad.
I don't see how it's sad. What I think is sad is shaming a woman for being married to somebody that she wants to be married to. Like, why are you mad?
Oh,
Allie, they want to know, is this a joke? They're confused.
It's not a joke. They just don't understand it. It's like people, instead of trying to understand something that's new to them, they would rather demonize it. But we do that all over American culture. But you guys are welcome to send me an email and drop some questions. It's Allie@realfemsapien.com. I'm happy to do breakdowns because I promise the men are not evil. The thing is, though, is that most men can't do for you what my husband does for me, right? But if you want to find somebody who does that, let me know.
Listen,
we gotta pause it again real quick because we got a rant. Looky here. I say this shit all the time, man. Feminism has robbed women blind. Feminism has done no good for not only relationships, but also, and more importantly, your mindset, your ideology, okay? This misplaced trust in men is sincerely confusing to me. I don't go, you know what? I want to knock you up and give you babies. Because in the back of my mind, I'm going, I feel like beating my bitch tonight. I want to beat that bitch. What? Nobody does that. Nobody thinks to themselves, I can't wait to just tell this bitch what to do and to come home to a fearful and nagging wife. She's afraid to look at me. She's afraid to have sex with me. She's resentful of me. She hates my guts. I feel like I always have to look over my back because I know she's talking to dudes behind my back because I'm a fuck off. Nobody, no man, walks into the responsibility of a relationship and babies with that mindset. Feminism has robbed you. Men like doing this shit. Men enjoy the responsibility of a family. Men like this. We enjoy this. We, in fact, live for this. Hence why we spend our lives looking for a wife and a good, sincere, honest woman to do these things for. Holy shit, what a concept. What a concept. We like this shit. That's crazy. Why do you mistrust me? Because you've chosen losers to let nut in you for the last 15 years of your adult life? Well, that's not my fucking problem. Because you pick dumb fucks to get into relationships with who have done nothing but use you for your money or use you for your car or use you for your pussy? That's not my problem. That's not my fault. That's yours. You need to take responsibility for that, not me. It's not my job to knock down your walls and to constantly prove to you that I'm a real nigga. That's not my job. That's your shit to figure out, not mine. Until then, I'm going to work on me, continue on my path, and my train keeps going. Whether you want to hop on or off, that's your call. That's your call, but the train don't stop, baby. That's how it works. So feminism has done you no justice, no good whatsoever, and it would behoove you to do your research and to look at the married women around you and take a look at how that's supposed to work, how happy those women really are in their true nature and true dynamic.
And Allie,
They said being afraid is a valid fear. I was a stay-at-home mom, and after divorce, I got nothing.
Nope.
It's the scariest thing.
Yeah, but if you choose to live in fear, you're constantly living in scarcity. And so, I would challenge you. If you got divorced and you got nothing, why not try again at romance and try and see if you can do better? That's better than being alone.
I want to know how you feel about letting your husband cheat.
Okay, so the PC answer is that if he does step out, that's a reflection upon myself because I am most likely not putting out or I've given up on my looks. My real answer is, as long as I don't know, I can't be mad, can I?
Allie, what'd you say?
No, I was saying is that people think that I'm hard on single people. And it's like, look, nobody likes being single. You go to work, you come home to nobody. Some people don't even have a dog. And
Some
if men
people don't
like
have
being
a dog.
Single, and men like to have sex more.
Get 'em, Allie.
Well, obviously, women hate being single more.
Allie, what do you say to the women that say, my husband isn't my boss. There is no need to be submissive. You're a team.
Nope.
I understand where they're coming from, but these same women don't understand that oftentimes they'll put their husbands on the back burner for an actual boss in real life that they have to submit to. And they constantly ask their husbands to modify their lives for that. Meanwhile, the dude is forgotten. He's absolutely sexless, and she's feeding him out of the microwave. That's the problem. If you can work and love your man equally, you want to talk about equalism, right? If you can do that, then good. But most women can't. Most women can't even push the power button on an air fryer.
Nope.
Allie, what is this? The 1950s?
No, it's 2022, and I get this point a lot, this dumb argument. By the way, probably for somebody who wasn't even in that era. The difference between 2022 and 1950 is that in 1950 you were prescribed to be a housewife. In 2022, you get to choose. But guess what? Only a handful of women even get the option because they plan their lives accordingly. This is oftentimes a projection trying to make it seem like we're so awful and oppressed. I don't think so. I get everything I want. I just get it through my husband.
in a day and age where women are encouraged to exercise choice and they have all these freedoms, it's just so funny that women try to put down the women who decide, hey, you know what? I actually want to depend on a man or submit to my man, right? It's like the same women who fight for equal opportunity for women put down the women who exercise that freedom of choice to be submissive to a man. Listen, I don't see anything wrong with this. Allie shared how she got her high value man. The only women who are upset are the women who are watching her succeed and flourish for making the right decisions.
The women who are unhappy with these choices aren't the married women, aren't the married in successful marriages, aren't the women in successful marriages with kids. The women who are unhappy about this are the ones that are A, picking abusive men over and over and over again, whether it be mentally, whether it be physically, whether it be spiritually, whatever the case is. Women who constantly choose men who use them and thump on them and use them for sex. Okay, those are the women who get upset because they can't take responsibility for their own actions and they repeat the same cycle and never learning and growing. Hence why you're 32, 33, 34 and a single mom with 4 kids. Sorry, not sorry. Or the women who hate are the single women who regularly can't find good men because they're hoes. And again, don't take responsibility for their actions. The women who are happy with kids in their marriage don't bitch because they're busy worrying about their husband and their families and their home. What a fucking concept. Just for shits and giggles. Just for shits and giggles. I haven't even checked out this channel yet.
All right, welcome back to the real.
Oh damn, these are super long. Ooh, okay. Let's. What's this one? Just for shits and giggles. Just to kind of keep it going.
And I wanted to ask you a little bit more about which parent do you think you bonded with most?
Oh, my father, for sure. There's zero question about that. Yeah, my father and I had a really special bond. It's unfortunate because I love my mother deeply, but there was just, and I hear this a lot from other people anecdotally. Plus, I've read it in the literature that there tends to be a same-sex bonding in healthy relationships. That daughters will tend to bond a little bit more with their mothers because who knows why. But yeah, I bonded most certainly more with my father.
Do you think your dad effectively taught you how to be a man?
Partially. The challenge was, he grew up in the 1950s, and
Oh yeah, that's true. That's like that old school love.
yeah, but he was brought up in the classic fashion that women are to be protected and to be provided for, and I don't want to speak for my father because he died a long time ago, but the messages I got were things like, hey, take care of your mother, take care of women, protect women. And I think what happened was that ended up blue pilling me, just like all my friends, including my friend Mike and Buddy that I spoke about earlier. Now, these men, along with a lot of my other male acquaintances, have gotten purple pilled to some degree. So to answer that question, what he taught me about women was definitely the theme of Blue Pill, but it was done with absolute, genuine, honesty and the best for me. But it just didn't work out.
So it sounds like he taught you to favor women a little bit too much.
Oh gosh, yes.
But it seems like he taught you some aspects of masculinity as well.
Oh, for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. So on the members only channel, there was a question posed. It was basically, what was the best advice that your father has given you? And one of the pieces that he gave me was, I was struggling with some woman or some girl or something in high school, and I was writing a letter because this is in the 80s, right? And so there was no internet, there was no smartphone. So if you're going to communicate via a Snapchat or an Instagram, it's on a piece of paper with pen and ink. So I was writing something, Dad comes in, and I see him, and he walks in, and he's like, hey, T. He used to call me T-Bone. He's like, hey, T, what are you doing? And he knew what I was doing. And I said, well, I'm writing a letter, sir. He says, to who? That one girl? I'm not going to say her name, because if I say her name, and anybody sees this, they'll know, because it's a very unique name. So he knew exactly what was going on. So anyway, so I showed him the letter, and he said, yeah. He gave it back to me. He's like, hey, be careful what you send out to others that's permanent, because it can come back to haunt you. So this is my father's message to me on pen and paper before the age of the internet. So that taught me, hey, be very, very careful what you put out there, just in general. That was one. Another was always stay physically fit, stay focused on being athletic, not some crazy bodybuilder or something, but physically fit. Something that my mother really did not like, and certainly in today's elementary schools would get the parents in trouble, but he actually would take time. And I remember I was maybe 5th or 6th grade, because he started when I was like 1st or 2nd grade, and he would teach me how to punch and how to hit, because he wasn't a professional fighter, but he knew how to fight. And I remember he would hold his hand up and I would hit it, and it 5th or 6th grade, and he had taught me to hit so well by then that I was hurting his hand, and he couldn't do that anymore, so we had to do other things. But he taught me to defend myself and to be a man, and if somebody aggresses you, do not let them bully you. Hit them back. Even if you get beat up, teach them a lesson. So lots of lessons of masculinity.
It's funny that he mentions that, because I've run into many single moms in my time who have a huge problem with authority in regards to, I've been asked, how do I parent my daughter? Okay, because obviously when a woman enters my frame, so does her kids if she has them, right? And the question I frequently get asked is, well, how do you reprimand your daughter? I have a one-rule policy. I tell you once. And Glenda's autistic, of course, so I have to be a little bit harder on her in some ways and a little bit more lenient in other ways. I've never had a normal child, so I couldn't fathom what it's like to have the difference in parenting. But one thing I learned early on, and especially as someone who might be autistic themselves, or at the very least ADHD and hyperfunctional, is that I need structure. I always needed structure. At least in regards to, this is what you're doing, this is what we're doing as a family. Point A, point B, point B, or point C, okay? Very structured, okay? And at the very least, with ADHD, that's something that I really needed growing up, and that's something that my papa was very good on with me, was gently keeping me in line. He never had to yell, he never had to cuss, and he was never a cusser. And let me tell you, the authority that my papa commands has always been, I can't think of a handful of times where he had to raise his voice, and the times that he did, you felt like an absolute piece of shit. He didn't have to cuss. He just had to raise a couple decibels, and that's all it took. And I tried very hard implementing that as a parent myself. Unfortunately, I mean, I have kind of done things my own way, but anyways, to get back to my point, I have a one rule policy with my kid, and I have a one rule policy with your kids, our kids, whatever, okay? I tell you once, your mother tells you once. If you don't listen, I'm whipping your ass. Oh my God, no, that's abuse. You can't do that. That's not okay. No, that's not the game I play. Well, I'm not okay with that. Well, then move on. I'm not going to beat the shit out of the kids. Obviously, I'm not abusive. I wasn't raised in the idea that you have to be fucking, backhanded and punched in the head as a kid. Okay, that wasn't something that I was raised up in, and that's not something I agree with, obviously. But for the purposes of being fair across the board, I tell Glenda, and there's a vast difference in how my daughter communicates to me and how she listens to me versus how she communicates and listens to her mother, because of the vast difference in how I interact with her versus how her mother interacts with her, right? So, yes, I have a one rule policy, and it's funny that he mentions that, because that's one thing that's often overlooked, is that there's an amount of, not only as a father, you have a responsibility to teach your kids about respect, absolutely, but you also have a responsibility to teach your kids how to defend themselves, okay? Now, Glinda is going to be 10 this year, so, once everything is done with the current situation, I'll have a bit more room to maneuver in her life, in that aspect anyways. But teaching your kids how to defend themselves and what to tolerate and what not to tolerate is also an overlooked thing, okay? And single parents have a hard time doing that, and not by fault of wanting to, but because in a normal dynamic where mom and dad are equally present, equally, dad has his lessons to teach, mom has her lessons to teach. This works hand in hand in parenting children, okay? When that becomes unbalanced one way or the other, it becomes very hard. And as I've always said, single parents are bad parents. That's just how it goes. Single parents are bad parents. Either you're a great parent and a shit provider, or you're a great provider and a shit parent, but you can't do both. There's 24 hours in a day. If you're working 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, you've only got, 3 hours a night with your kids? That makes you a shit parent. You're a great provider, but that makes you a shitty parent. You need both, and you need both equally in regards to raising your kids to their most optimal progression. Okay? So, teaching your kids how to defend themselves and what to tolerate is so crucial. And women, especially, I've noticed nowadays, are much more afraid of that than the men are. And I don't know why that is. I mean, I know why. It's the feminism. But it's okay to teach your kids to stand up for themselves. It's okay to teach your kids how to have a spine, and it's okay to put hands on your kids when it's necessary. Because just like in real life, talk shit, get hit, right? You step up to me, you're going to get sparked on immediately. I don't care. There's not a disrespect level that I'm going to tolerate with you. And you need to teach your kids that too. And that's not the same thing as picking a fight with everybody that looks at you stupid. But when you're getting picked on, when your siblings are getting picked on, when you see someone who can't defend themselves getting picked on, it is your duty to do something about that. That is something you must instill in your kids. Otherwise, you're going to be raising a bunch of pussies who are afraid to speak the truth, who are afraid to stand up for themselves, and who are afraid to do the right thing. Hence why we have so many of men in my generation. I'm 32. Everyone between the age of like 27, 28, and 40 right now are going through this whole jumble of shit because our parents' generation didn't sit down and have those talks with us. Our parents' generation didn't sit down with us and tell us about the birds and the bees, didn't tell us about the way men should be acting with women, didn't tell us those important things. So it's our job to be cognitively aware of what our parents did to us, and now us, our generation, as our own parents, our job is to teach our kids this. Super important.
Oh, yeah. What do you think, hypothetically, if we have a kid, right, and they're getting bullied, and they whoop total behind, do they get in trouble or they get ice cream?
That's a great question. I think that they would get a conversation about discipline and about intention. Because what I was taught when I was training was, look, if there's and this I think comes out of Taoism, if you have a bully and you let them hurt you, you let them injure you, you are actually their teacher. And what you're teaching them is it's okay to use physical violence to injure the weaker. So I would have that conversation in whatever context is appropriate with whatever language and vocabulary, and it's age dependent. And then I'd give them ice cream.
And then you'd give them ice cream.
Yes.
So how'd you start working out anyway? Because I love that story.
All right. So am I allowed to curse on your channel?
Well, yeah. I mean,
Right.
the mic is yours, honey.
All right. So I kept getting my ass kicked by these nasty kids that would come into the neighborhood. We had a really close-knit, I don't know, 6 or 8 of us in our little neighborhood. We would play together, and it was really great. Well, the one set of kids, and again, I'm not going to say their names, would have their cousins come in from out of town. And we knew the vehicle, and like, oh, God, we all hated these people because they were just brutal bullies, mean.
So you knew when they were pulling up that they were pulling up to whoop ass.
Oh, we knew weeks before they were arriving. We knew the schedule of these people. So, I mean, now that I'm an adult, I get it. Like, these poor bastards, they must have been beaten, like physically abused as children.
Yeah.
Because their play style, their mode of entertaining and engaging with other children is to hurt them, to hit them with sticks, throw rocks at them. They would pull out these long reeds out of this like field that were like,
yeah, that's called a switch in the South.
Oh my! And they would beat us with it, and they would laugh. I mean, you know, we just hated it. But now that I'm an adult, I just look back and like, there's part of me that has some pity for them because the brutality through which they must have gone with their parents to unleash that on others as kids, 10, 12 years old. So anyway, I just got tired of getting my ass kicked by these people. So I went downstairs into the basement, and I remember this very clearly because we had a sump pump, and there was condensation and moisture, and there was an old cardboard box. And in the cardboard box were these old weights that were all iron. Like, they weren't even steel. They were made out of iron. And because of the moisture next to the sump pump, they were rusting and like brown and black with flakes of oxidized metal falling off them. And I went down there, and the box was falling open because it was wet. And I got all these weights, and I hauled them. I must have been 11 or 12 years old, and hauled them upstairs to my bedroom, cleaned them off as best I could, put them together, and had to get like oil and WD-40 to screw them onto the little bars. And I started working out that day, and I'm like, I am not getting my ass kicked anymore.
I like the fortitude because somehow at the age of like 10 or 11, you're like, you know what? I am small, and this is why I'm getting my tail torn up.
Your fortitude. That's what kicks in. And I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. There is a point in everyone's life, man or woman, specifically men in this case, as this is geared toward men. There is a point in time in your life where you reach where you realize the shit that you've been doing up until that point isn't working anymore. Usually this happens a few times in a man's life, but you reach a point where you go, something just isn't fucking working. what is it? You pray about it, you meditate about it, whatever the case is, you plex on it, smoke a joint, and really just go out all on it, and you realize you're a bit of a liar. You're a bit of a lazy fuck. You're lacking in motivation. You're not putting your most sincerest efforts into point A or point B. You're not being as good of a dad as you could be. You're not being as good of a son as you could be. You're not being attentive enough to your wife's needs. Or you're being too attentive to your family's needs, and you need to focus more on yourself. Whatever the case is, you realize what you're doing isn't working, and it has to change. And your fortitude, physically and mentally, is what pushes you as a man through that mental barrier. I could not work out. For many, it wasn't up until recently I just started working out.
I'm afraid someone is endeavoring to
Okay? It takes an amount of fortitude to wake up to the alarm at 5:30 in the morning and do 30 minutes worth of sit-ups irregularly. Okay, I don't have a set schedule. But it takes a mental fortitude to wake up early, go for a walk, go do some sit-ups, go do some crunches, whatever it is that you're doing. That's fortitude. That's what it's mental fortitude. It takes fortitude to change your diet. Okay? I know I shouldn't be eating, instead of pouring, 4 or 5 tablespoons of sugar in my cup of coffee in the morning, I'm going to drink it black. That takes fortitude. Watching your mouth around your wife or your kids. Maybe stop swearing or whatever the case is. It takes fortitude. You're used to a habit, right? Not trusting men or trusting men too much. Okay? You're used to picking losers and douchebags to let nut in you all your life. It takes mental fortitude to know these are markers that I regularly see attractive in men. These markers that I see attractive are not in fact attractive. They are hindering me in my dating life. I must change these. That's a mental fortitude you have to change. So your fortitude as a human being, as a man or a woman, is what pushes you through those moments in your life where you know you have to change. And that is something that you're not told. We don't discuss. We don't talk about with our kids, with our friends. Your mental state is what propels you through your hard